Um, there's definitely a shift. You know what I'm saying? People are actually moving. You know, a lot of people migrating towards the South. You know, the South is it's big nowadays, man. You know, this is real talk. You know, it's popular. You know, cities like Atlanta, Charlotte, you know, Jacksonville, Raleigh, they popping. And the reason why is because, you know, a lot of these southern cities now are like modernized. And then, you know, we're entering into the world of technology. Matter of fact, we're already here. You know what I'm saying? Where you have smartphones, smart cars. Eventually, you're going to have what? Smart cities. So, technology is making our society, is shrinking our society. We're coming closer and closer and closer and closer together. But then again, we're really not. You know what I'm saying? I mean, oftentimes, I find myself living in the South and not getting that type of Southern hospitality that I normally would get. You know, like I got back in the days. You know, when people ask you, good morning, how you doing? You know, back in the days, they really had a genuine, sincere, you know, interest in how you were doing. But nowadays, it's just like, you know, it's just a regular, you know, thing that you say to people. It's a greeting. It's not really a question. Like, you'll be delusional to answer the question. Nobody's trying to help you. Nobody doesn't care about your feelings and what you're doing and how you're doing. Everybody is chasing after the bag. For real. Here in these southern cities, man, southern hospitality, morals, principles, and everything, our standards, the way that we used to live at one point in time here in the South is gone. That's real talk. That's real talk. And being that we're in these southern cities, we become more dependent and less independent. And it's crazy because that's not what the real country, you know, boondocks out in the South was about. Back in the days, living out in the country was saying that you were independent. That you can do for self. You don't have to worry about going to no grocery store because you had a farm in your backyard. And if you didn't have one, you knew of a farmer right up the street. In order to get your meat, you had to go to no grocery store to get that. There was a butcher right down the street. Go to the farm, you pick out what cow you want. You know exactly what that cow, you know, ate. You know exactly, you know what I'm saying? What the cow looked like, what kind of shape the cow was in prior to it being quartered, or rather cut up. So then you take the cow, you bring it over to the butcher, he cuts it up, wraps it up in, you know, like paper and rubber bands or strings or however way he packages it. You take it home, you put it in your deep freezer, and some of the rest of it you put in your regular refrigerator, so you can go ahead and eventually unthaw it. You know, once you put it in the freezer, your refrigerator, you know, inside the kitchen, and you cook it. Nowadays, the South has been obliterated with modernization. And the life that, you know, I'm not going to sit here and say that I lived, because, I mean, to be real with you, I'm literally a city boy, you know, but I remember the summers, and I remember seeing, you know, the South at the time. I remember seeing the real South. I remember seeing, you know, dude over there cutting up a pig, had a raccoon hung up and gutting him up. I remember seeing, you know what I'm saying, my aunt Pansy go inside her farm, take an onion and pull it up out of the ground. But that's not the way these southern cities are ran nowadays. It's not community based. People don't know one another. You know what I'm saying? And in these large places where there's, in these places where there's a large population of people where they reside at, they have the nerve to call these places communities. But I'm not going to say nobody, but very rare do you see anyone in these so-called communities communicate with one another. For some odd reason, we've walked away from our natural way of life and walked into someone else's. Where when you're in their society, everything is dictated to you. And that's real talk. And this is the reason why I can no longer be a part of this society, or part of these southern cities, or just, these major cities across the world. I'd rather be out there in the country where I can be able to do what I want to do. Where I can dictate how I live my life instead of waiting for someone to dictate how I live my life for me every couple odd years when it comes to us voting a city official in. I want to be out there. I want to have the opportunity to pluck an onion out of the ground and know where it came from instead of going to the grocery store. Hell, you don't even trust your next door neighbor. How is it that you hold Harris Teeter, grocery stores such as Harris Teeter, Food Lion, Whole Foods, Publix, at a higher level, or you trust them more than you trust your own next door neighbor? And you know your next door neighbor more than you know the people that work for Harris Teeter or Walmart or wherever you get your groceries, produce from. And this is crazy to me. Very rarely do you hear the words love or care in the South. You know what I'm saying? If you're in the black neighborhoods, we don't even call our neighborhoods anymore neighborhoods. We call them hoods. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I just don't understand how people still continue to live this so-called American dream, because as of now, that's what it's turning out to be, just a dream. That's it. And you have major corporations, nowadays is buying up homes left and right. So if you buying your house for the first time, you won't be able to, because you have company, or rather corporations beating you to punch, such as Tricon, Progress, and America's Home for Rent. Now remember, they had a special on 60 Minutes about Tricon. I think that's how Tricon or something like that, how you pronounce it. I think it's Tricon. It's based out of the majority of properties they own are in Florida. And the CEO of that company, they interviewed him, and you know what he said? The interviewer said, well, what about people and their American dream? You know what the CEO of Tricon said? He said, well, people may not be able to own the American dream, but they definitely will be able to rent one. Do you understand? What's going on here? It is not in my best interest to be a part of this society that has failed their people and literally have turned people into robots, where no one has a mind of their own and everybody just does what everybody else do. And those that do that very exact opposite are pegged as the troublemaker. That's real talk. That's the reason why they don't want, seriously, this is real talk. They don't want the minorities to connect with the people out there that's in the country. Because if we did, we would find out ain't too many people out there in the country is racist. The boogeyman, the KKK, and all the stuff that they told us about those people out there were wrong. And if you had enough common sense in your mind, you will go out there and find out for yourself like I did. And I can tell you out there in the rural South, the way they have those people out there depicted as slow, unintelligent, racist, and the list goes on. It's not who I met when I met those people out there. I met highly intelligent, a devout American when it comes to the Constitution and the Second Amendment, to bear arms and to face tyranny if your government just so happens to go against you. Or to take your weapons away. We have certain constitutional rights, morals, and principles that we used to abide by. And now in these southern cities, we don't anymore. And this is the reason why you're seeing chaos at its finest. And for all of those people that you said were slow, unintelligent, racist, and all the negative things that you mentioned about them, why is it, if they're so negative, why is it that when I go out there, all I hear, see, and smell, because it does have a scent, is peace. That same type of scent, that same type of look, that same type of sound that I was used to hearing from the old South. We're so caught up into chasing after that bag in these southern cities, to the point where we don't even realize that we're losing sense of self. When you go out there in the country and you're one with nature, you're in tune with nature, you're also in tune with yourself. Real talk. That's where I want to be. I want to be more independent and more independent on myself and less dependent on government. You know, that sounds familiar. Sounds like old Langston may be a because it seems as though that the liberal cities, or rather the Democrat cities, or the black cities, whatever you want to call it, they're fucked up. And the country, man, the real South, is thriving. When I go out there, all I see is a bunch of people minding their goddamn business while enjoying life. Much respect to all of you that live in the country. I apologize if I ever said anything disrespectful towards you. My eyes are truly open, and I am truly woke.